to exceptional health care and transform lives to the glory of God and through our relationships. And you can't do that without being in a relationship. So when we practice health care, we really see our vocation not as health care, but as being in meaningful, impactful relationships. Then our avocation is health care, business, and what follows. And that helps us enter into the workplace with a mindset that we're going to live fully integrated lives with God and not separate, apart from God. We're not different at church than we are at home, than we are at work. It's one single approach. It's reflected in our core values and certainly in our practice. If you want to know more about Health by Design, please, it's my favorite topic, the way we practice medicine and how we go about it. I'd love to engage you in conversation if you have time. But you're here to hear from Dr. John Hierholzer today. He is one of our medical directors. He leads the Executive Exam Center and Concierge Medicine for us. Now, in the marketplace, we are a business-to-business healthcare solution that brings God into our relationships and in the way that we practice medicine. And we do that through wellness offerings, on-site, near-site, and shared clinics, executive exams, concierge medicine, health and nutrition coaching, and immunizations. That's the vehicle for our relationships. Well, Dr. John, he's over two of those divisions, concierge medicine and executive exams. As great a physician as he is, he's even better man of God, husband, father to several, and an engaged family man. And we hope that we create a culture at Health by Design that creates life balance, where people can be good at work, excellent in their relationship with Christ, and also have plenty of family time. We really strive not to run people into the ground, but to strike that balance where we can do it all. How could you assess our work as fully integrated life with Christ if we end up putting all of the priorities in one basket versus the other? So we're trying to strike that balance. Dr. Hierholzer is an excellent example of the kind of people that we have at Health by Design, and I know you're going to enjoy hearing from him. Dr. John.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me okay? Well, it's certainly my pleasure to spend some time with you this afternoon. As I look out over this crowd, it really does make my heart hopeful for the future. You guys look great, and to see all these wonderful young professionals that are open with their faith. I just love that. And so I thank you so much for allowing me to come here and visit with you for a little bit this morning, or this afternoon. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about leading by example. And as I go through it, I'm going to kind of share with you my experiences and some of the things that I went through that kind of have shaped the way that I deal with people at work, the people that maybe I'm called to work with, or maybe I'm called to lead, and help you kind of gain some insight over some of the things that you're going to be up against, some of the things that may come against you that may make you fall into habits that you may or may not want get into. So I hope you find this talk helpful. As Rod said, we're here from Health by Design, and I work in the executive exams and the concierge medicine, and it really is a great place to work. I've been with them for a little over a year now, and I really have been blessed to be in an environment now that really does have a Christian mission, Christian values. The people I work with, they love on me, they show me grace despite all my flaws every day. And just the people that are here volunteering and the people that couldn't be here, thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this possible. I love you guys. You guys are great. So, with that, this is paprika. And you're probably wondering, why in the world did Dr. Hierholzer name his daughter Paprika? Right, well, Paprika is the chicken that my daughter Jen is holding. And those of you from Health by Design, it just occurred to me that my daughter looks like Dr. Ogletree. Anyway, I digress before I even get started. But if you can see, I don't know, it's kind of light, but if you can see Paprika's head, she was picked on. That happened to her by her sisters. She was born on November 11th, and as she grew up, she moved out to a chicken coop that was separated from the big chickens, and she was in there with her sisters. And one of my young sons came into the house, Josh, and said, "Dad, I think Paprika's dead. A board fell on her head, and she's just laying there." And so I went out there to look, and I pulled her out, and she wasn't dead, but her head looked like that. But she walked around, and I put her down, and immediately when I put her down, the other chickens came, and they started pecking the back of her head. And so she found herself at the bottom of the pecking order. And she literally just given up hope. All she could do was just stick her head under the board and lay there hopelessly. Now she's doing great. She lives in the barn. She has her own room, and she's got a little scar on her head, but she's doing well. And you probably wonder, what the heck does this have to do with anything? We'll get to it. So this is a little about Paprika, but yeah, she was at the bottom of the pecking order. It's a real thing in chickens. I'm kind of a novice chicken rancher, but it's real, and also in people. So a little bit about me, and this is where I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of background about my first practice experience and where I really began to develop some pretty bad habits as a leader. But up there, I'm not a good public speaker. In fact, when they came and mentioned that I did it, my fight or flight response went off. And really, I'm much more of a lover than a fighter, so it's really a flight or flight. And so I was like, oh my goodness, how in the world can I get out of this? But then I sat down and I thought, and I said, surely my Lord can use me to say something useful to these young healthcare professionals. So here I am. In all honesty, I'm not a very good leader, and I haven't been. And I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. I used to fall real short, and these days I still fall short. It's something I struggle with. And so to kind of share a little bit of my story, my first job out of residency, I moved to a very rural area of Texas in the Panhandle. Anybody know Spearman, Texas, Hanford County, about 90 miles north of Amarillo. Okay. There's nothing up there but cows. Cows. And so anyway, I left Houston and I moved up there with my family, and I was excited. I was going to go up there and I was going to show those cowboys how we practice medicine in the big city and change the world, and I was going to get my loans repaid. So I had it all planned out, right? And I got up there, and I quickly found out that I wasn't just going up there to see patients, to practice medicine. I showed up there, and they wanted me to be the hospital director, the ER director, the trauma director, the disaster management director, the lab director, the nursing home director, the hospice director. In fact, one time I was at a meeting with the board of directors, and they wanted me to be the head dog catcher. And I was like, no way, I'm not going to be a dog catcher. They said, well, the dog's going to bite somebody, you're going to have to take care of him anyway. And I'm lying about that part. They didn't really do that. But it wasn't just that I was going to go up there and practice medicine. And as medical professionals, I don't care where you end up working, you're going to be called to lead in other ways other than just taking care of patients. And when you do that, you're going to have to interact with the team around you in ways that are constructive. And we'll talk about that. But so anyway, I got this up in the Panhandle, and I was practicing, and it was exciting at first, but not too far into that, I began getting overwhelmed. You know, I was green, and I was scared, frankly. I was up there, and I was worried about the next kid that they were going to bring to the ER that got kicked in the head by a horse, and what would I do with them? And then cold and flu season would come up, and there's one clinic, but you know, it's a small town, but it's really about 3 counties around you that are all seeking medical care. And I fill up my office, and then they know that I have to go to the ER, so I'm running like flu clinic in the ER and regular clinic in my office. And I'm just overwhelmed by the patient care, right? And so on days like this, say the nursing home director comes over and says, Dr. Hierholzer, the Medicare is coming to do an audit. Have you finished how we're gonna handle or you know, how are we gonna show them that we're taking measures to stop our residents from falling? And you know, I would just get all unglued and annoyed, and I'd be like, throw it on my desk, and you know, I'll deal with it later. And I start to become really kind of unapproachable, not very nice, and so then people would stop asking me things, and they would do things on their own. And if they would mess up, I would jump all over them. So I mean, they couldn't win either way with me, right? So that was not being a very good leader. And in all honesty, I was a Christian when I was there, and I would go to our conference meetings and things, and I would pray with these folks, and for the next 55 minutes sit there and pout and complain and not be a very good leader. And so that's some of my background. And I have to say that while the practices that I've been in have not been that intense or that demanding of me thus far, some of those bad habits I got myself into, it's easy to fall back into them. Because it's not, I don't care where you practice, if you're a dentist, a therapist, doctor, some other healthcare professional, things are going to get hectic. There's going to be things to deal with other than patient care. It's going to wear on you. And how are you going to respond when those things happen to the people around you to allow them to help you and to lift them up? And so with that, keep moving here. So everybody know who that is? Anybody? All right, so this is Jesus on steroids, or Jesus Schwarzenegger. Does everybody know Jesus Schwarzenegger's famous quote? Ought to be God, right? Ought to be God. And so I put this picture up because it is a little bit silly. My daughter and I laughed at it when I was putting it together. But this shows somebody that you want to follow as a leader, somebody you'd want to model yourself. You're big and strong and mighty to save, and really I could end the talk here. You know, you want to be a good leader, do your best to model our Savior, Jesus Christ. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you a little more information. So, if you're a healthcare professional, you know, obviously Jesus is the example for all of us that we all strive for. But as a healthcare provider, it really is narrowed down. If you are taking care of people and in the healthcare industry, Jesus was the great healer. And so you can model your career, your profession after him. And so in Matthew 4:23, you can read that, but this is where Jesus traveled throughout the region of Galilee, teaching in the synagogues and announcing the good news about the kingdom. And he healed every kind of disease and illness. News about him spread as far as Syria, and the people soon began bringing him all who were sick, and whatever their sickness or disease, or if they were demon-possessed or epileptic or paralyzed, he healed them all. So again, he's what we strive for. He's the example in everything in our life, but in your career as well. So, I want to encourage you to try to get into good leadership habits now. I know a lot of you are not like me, maybe more mature, you know, treat people better, handle things better, don't cope with things maybe the way I did. But I would encourage you just to go ahead and get started. For me, I felt like I wasn't really good enough to talk to people about my faith because I wasn't wise enough yet. I didn't know enough yet. And then the same thing is it carries over into your career. Sometimes as a student or a young resident, you may think, well, you know, I don't lead yet. I don't have all that information, all that wisdom. But I'm here to tell you, you have more information now than probably you're going to be able to execute at this point. I know for me, if I were just to start practicing just a small percentage of the things that I know to be truth in my faith, I would serve my God better, I would serve the people around me better, and I would certainly serve myself better. And so the future is now. It's important to gain information and gain the knowledge to be a good dentist, a good doctor, whatever. It's certainly appropriate to read leadership books and to learn how to get better at these things. It's certainly going to benefit you to dive into the Word and grow in your understanding of God's Word. But you got to move past that. You got to start putting in the practice, start developing those good habits, and I encourage you to do it while you're young in your career. So, this is Paul to Timothy, and we're looking at 1 Timothy 4:12, and it says, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you're young. Be an example, so be a leader to believers." And I say to anyone, especially people that are not believers, in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, in your spirit, your faith, and your purity. Be your best to lead by example. We're going to kind of break these down a little bit and how you can apply Paul's direction to Timothy to allow you to be an example of a leader. So, in what you say, this is, practically speaking, you want to articulate. I have a hard time with this. I'm a mumbler. So don't mumble. Don't speak too quickly. Don't use vulgarity or slurs. Speak the truth. Don't gossip or slander. Listen first and choose words wisely. We all know this. Sometimes it's hard to do. And here's a couple of scriptures to back that up. For whatever is in your heart determines what you say. Matthew 12. Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that in your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. That's in Ephesians. And then in Psalm, may the words of my mouth be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. In your conduct, or the way you live. So this is your conduct. This is how you act. Going back to our picture of Jesus, that's who you want to imitate. You don't want to imitate the world. And you certainly don't want to come off as one way around your Christian friends and you act in other situations. You don't want to act or treat maybe your peers or people above you in a way that's different than the people that may not be in your position. Because then you're going to come across as not being genuine, and then they're not going to trust you. They're not going to be willing to look to you for leadership. Unbelievers may not want to accept the gospel message from you. That's what's going on. So in the way you live, I think I have scripture there. And so in Ephesians it says, "Throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous." In your love. And I think this is easy, especially for people that choose to be healthcare professionals or to take care of people. This is probably a big reason why a lot of you have chosen to do what you do, so that you can love on people, you can help them. And so it says this is where you're blessed to genuinely show your love and concern for the well-being of others, of your patients, your coworkers, and the lost. But also when you love on people, a leader must also correct and redirect in love when others are moving in the wrong direction. The key here, though, is you have to do the first part first, right? You have to show them love, and then you, where they are, and then once you gain that trust, then you can move into redirecting in love, right? And so Jesus himself is the perfect picture of love. And then in Galatians it says, if another believer is overcome by sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. In your spirit and faith. So your spirit is your attitude. So your body language, you know. Are you really listening to somebody? It's a lot of times a lot more telling than your actions or your words. This is a place where I struggle. I start to feel the pressure, and I'll keep saying the right things and smiling and acting the way I think I should, but my spirit can get down sometimes. You want to keep your spirit right, and the way you do that is to keep your spirit up is to not neglect your faith. That's communion needs to be in constant communion with God. Let him walk alongside you all day long. Constant conversation, constant prayer. Pray. Or dive into the Word, be in the Word. And then the other thing is just to know the truth. That no matter how bad things get, how stressed you get, what the world is throwing at you, this is the truth. No matter what may happen in this world, you are saved by grace. And if you live in that truth, your spirit can really shine through the most difficult or the worst of circumstances. It really starts to put things in perspective for you, right? You guys with me?
Yes.
Okay. And so in Colossians it says, work willingly at whatever you do as though you are working for the Lord rather than for people. And then in your purity, we're not going to go there today. I will make one statement. It's okay to love your coworkers, just don't love your coworkers. Because then you lose all credibility. Okay, so these are ways to lead by example. If you're able to move these things into actions, to take these truths and implement them in your lives, the result is that people are going to be willing to accept and trust your leadership as a healthcare professional. And then way more important than that is that people will be more willing to accept your testimony. They're going to let God, through you, perform the ultimate healing, which is acceptance of Jesus Christ, right? So, here's some things to consider, some kind of pitfalls that you may come across. So, I'm here to suggest that maybe it's not your fault how you kind of fall into these bad ways of leading or being a good example to the people around you. We don't get a lot of training in that. We spend a lot of time diving in the books, in the clinics, learning how to diagnose and treat disease. So, you know, we don't get that much training. But every single one of you will be called to lead in a way other than just direct patient care. Sometimes we have some bad examples that we learn from. We've all trained under the prestigious trauma surgeon that goes in and he directs and he orders and he's loud and really kind of mistreats people at times. And that's fine. I would say that it's not fine, but there's a place where it's maybe more appropriate, like if you're in a code or in a trauma or in the operating room. But in most circumstances that you're going to find yourself in, you know, that barking orders thing and being disrespectful is probably not the best way to go about it. And then we learn the pecking order, right? At least in the medical field, it's, you know, the attending, the resident, the intern, the medical student, and you know, everybody at the bottom kind of gets treated badly. And sometimes that can carry over into into your practice and affect how you treat people. It's a somewhat unique situation of being a leader and a laborer, right? So in your practice, you can get so overwhelmed with the patient care part that you can start to despise anything else that comes at you that has to do with, you know, what the bottom line of your practice is. What is patient flow? You know, I'm not getting reimbursement for this and that. You coded this wrong. And you start to really kind of get upset and despise that stuff. But you take it out on people that are just trying to help you facilitate, but they need your leadership and input in order to help you out with it. And down a little further, it says your heart is in the treating patients, not patient flow, staff response, etc. The flawed thinking that you are the expert in everything, or must be perceived as knowing everything. I promise you, where you end up working, you are not the expert in everything, and nobody expects you to be, and everybody really knows you're not. You don't have to have all the answers. And then the flawed thinking that you have to kind of control everything. Again, you have to trust the people that are helping you, that are within the organization, that are more qualified than you. Give them the power to do their job. You don't have to control everything. Some things to consider. So I kind of touched on some of these as I went through the other slide, but everyone knows you don't know everything, so embrace it. Let them handle it. Seek help and advice from those in your practice who are the experts. Avoid the barking of the orders. You'd be better if you would just respectfully direct and help people. Avoid being overly demanding. And it's also okay for you to get stuff for yourself or help even help somebody else, right? Just because you're in a certain position doesn't mean you can't pull your weight. Avoid treating superiors or those in your equal position better than or differently than others. Avoid controlling everything. Empower people within your organization. They'll feel appreciated and more open to your leadership. Also, they will not feel the need to ask you everything. It can slow down the process. Slow you down. And when problems come up, you don't have to know all the answers. You can just facilitate it, ask an open-ended question, give direction. And that's leading. Leading doesn't mean you have to have the answer and everything. But you can facilitate and let those around you do their job. That works good. All right. So these are the bad habits that I've fallen into. And as I look back and I was thinking about this, these are really kind of unhealthy habits of self-preservation for a medical professional. Being too busy or important to lead, attend meetings, contribute outside of direct patient care. Being too important to care about unimportant problems that don't directly pertain to patient care. Making yourself unapproachable by being rude or mean or acting like you're bothered by things. That's certainly not being an example of a leader. This is what I do. Closing yourself off in your office and nobody will ask you another question. Not a healthy way to handle that. And then being overly sensitive when you don't know the answer or even be wrong about them. So, in summary, right, this is the perfect example. This is the perfect example of a healthcare professional. We should strive to be like our Savior, right? And certainly we don't want to treat the people around us like So thank you. You guys are awesome for having me here. Again, as I'm here, my heart is filled with hope. Thank you for letting us come here and serve you today. Be the light of the world. Keep your soul salty. All right. That's all.
Thank you, sir.